Hello, good morning. It is a Friday. Happy Friday. Hello, hello. Today we are going to sip. I have bubble tea today. I never have bubble tea. I usually have coffee. So we are going to sit together. We are going to have some bubble tea. And today we are going to talk about how to break up a huge project or assignment. Can actually be used for anything from a big term project to something a little bit smaller, like an assignment that you just feel like you don't quite grasp. You can also use this for labs and stuff like that as well, for labs and lab reports and just about any kind of assignment that you have to do, essays, projects, dioramas, anything. So if you are part of the replay crew, I will have timestamps down in the description. But before we get into that, if this is your first time here, hello, welcome. I'm Terrell, and this is Absolutely Studying. I chat about study tips, organization hacks, and goal setting that's going to help you keep on track. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump right in. We're not going to mess around all day. Let's just get to it so we can talk about how to break up these big assignments. So this article, if you want to reference it in the future, is available on my website as well. I will have a link. Actually, there should already be a link to it down in the description below. So we're just going to talk about how to easily break up an assignment or a big project. This guide is going to help you to avoid getting overwhelmed by the workload and instructions, especially of a huge assignment, especially when you want to get a really good mark. So you have a huge assignment, but that's nothing new. Every other week, you're given a massive project to complete for one of your classes. This just means that you have even less time. Where do you even start? And how do we tackle this? Do you just jump in head first, or is there a better way? Today, I want to discuss how to easily break up a big assignment. This is the basis of task management, an essential skill for college and university students, because let's face it, there's not enough time in the day, week, or semester to get everything done. All students have this problem. I've had it, you've had it, it has existed since the beginning of time. The concept of it has existed since the beginning of the concept of the post-secondary institution. What we are going to do is we are going to break up this big project into manageable pieces. This is just so we don't get overwhelmed and bogged down by by the massiveness of it all. So where do we start? In this video, I'm going to cover exactly how to break up a big assignment into manageable pieces. We will walk through it step by step so you can apply this to your routine to get the best possible outcome. This process does not have to be reserved for big term projects. Use this simple task management method whenever you feel overwhelmed to take on an assignment or even a busy day. So if you do have a big project that is like an essay or any piece of academic writing, I do have an essay checklist, but it can be used for any type of academic writing project. It walks you through how to put the piece of writing together on the first page. The second page is completely dedicated to proofreading it to awesomeness. So you can pick that up on my website. How to break up a big project or assignment. The beauty of this method is that it can be applied at any point to any point you are at in the process of creating your project. If you want the best possible outcome, you can use this method for your next term project right from the start. If you've been toiling away and having difficulty keeping track of all the moving pieces, this system is excellent at organizing the mess. Don't save this message for some abstract future assignment. Apply it now to all of your homework, and you will see how effectively it can keep you on track. The very first thing is to start by making a list. The first thing we do is to break up this assignment into a simple list. Sit down and think about the project. Think about all the steps needed to complete it. Now break up the assignment into what you have done already and what you still need to do. Then write down the steps right up to submitting your work. So let's use an essay as an example. So first you would have to decide on a topic, then do your research, write an outline, write 3 paragraphs for the body, the conclusion, the introduction, think up a thesis statement, edit it again, keep on editing, and finally hand it in. When you're told to write an essay, your stomach might drop. That's a big assignment and a huge time investment, but any one of these tasks is manageable. Turning your essay into a simple task list like this may motivate you to actually work on some of these pieces. This easy first step will help to guide you through a clear path to completion. For extra essay writing help, you can also check out my book on essay writing. It's available through digital download and paperback versions. Links to that are on their website as well. Next, break up that task list into single task items. So from here, we can break up each of the items on the list into single tasks. For example, instead of decide on a topic, you might break it up into think up 5 topic ideas, brainstorm some supporting arguments and other associations, and then finally choose your topic. Continuing to break down the rest of your list until there are simple tasks you can finish in 15-minute settings. If you're looking at bigger items like editing, you can just add them to your list as edit paragraph 1, edit paragraph 2, etc. And so on. As we continue to work through each of the steps, you might find that you can break them down even further. You have the freedom to update this list and add new tasks at any time. Sometimes things become more clear as you work through the process. So, for example, if you do have edit paragraph 1, edit paragraph 2, and then you get to the editing process, you might realize that, especially if you are looking through the proofreading worksheet that I have in the freebie, you might notice that there are different ways you can edit it. So you can have, instead of edit paragraph 1, check for sentence completion, check for proper use of capitalization, check for incorrect spelling, check for improper grammar. So those can even be individual steps that you can breeze through in the editing process. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a big thing like edit paragraph 1. Even something like that can be broken down into simple steps that often will just take 5 or 10 minutes that you can just breeze through and start crossing off. And then you've done it, you've done it, and you can move on to the next task. And usually, especially if things like academic writing are really scary or really intimidating to you, proofreading your essay might be hard to digest. Proofreading edit paragraph 1 might even be difficult to digest, but checking a paragraph for proper use of capitalization, that is much easier to tackle. So next, to really keep you on track and really make sure that you are getting everything done and you have allotted enough time to complete everything, try giving each item on your task list a time frame. Add the amount of time you have to work on each of these sections. For example, you might give yourself 10 minutes to decide on a topic, 10 minutes to decide on a topic, then another 10 minutes to brainstorm all of the supporting arguments you can think of. Finally, you might give yourself another 5 minutes to reflect on what you have come up with and choose your topic. The list will now look like this. Think up 5 topic ideas, 10 minutes. Brainstorm supporting arguments and other associations, 10 minutes. Choose a topic, 5 minutes. Continue down your list and add timeframes to the rest of your tasks. Remember, you can always adjust these times later if you need to. If you think any tasks will take longer than 15 minutes, you might want to try breaking them up into smaller sections. That might mean creating new tasks or adding several entries for the same job, like we did for the editing. You don't have to do it now. Just keep this in mind as we work forward through the rest of the steps. So the reason for this is because things that are 15 minutes or less are really easy to tackle. Those are really nice, short, succinct items that you can tackle and get over with. Get it over with and get it done. There's not a lot of motivation required to jump on a 15-minute item or a 15-minute task. It's going to be easy to say, even when you're not motivated, it's going to be really easy to say, okay, I'm going to do this. It'll only take me 15 minutes. I can do this and then I can take a break and then I can do something else. So having these tiny micro tasks is going to be easier for you to focus really intently, get them done, and move on to the next task. If you can motivate yourself to work on something for 15 minutes, you can probably motivate yourself to work on it for 30 minutes by choosing another task or choosing another 5-minute task. And that's going to do a lot in being able to help you get things done and get motivated to work on it rather than putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because you know it's going to be a 6-hour project. Well, no, it's going to be a 15-minute task. That way you can get it done sooner, and then you can put more time and effort into getting a really great product and then getting that really great mark that you want. Choose somewhere to start and tackle that task. Let's start at the beginning. Take the first 10 minutes to write out topics and take the first 10 minutes to write out all of the topics that come to mind. If it only takes you 5, awesome. Still take the whole 10 minutes and think of different angles you might consider. Write them down as they come to mind so you can review them later. Spend the full 10 minutes really thinking about the topic. Grab a coffee before you start and use this as quiet time before the storm. Don't rush through this step, even if you feel like you finished early. If you have nothing to write after a couple of minutes, try expanding on the individual ideas. If you can think of related topics or different perspectives that you feel are strong, add them as well. So these time frames, these 10-minute time frames, or however long the time frame is, it also keeps you on track. One of the hardest things to do when you are writing anything, when you're writing an essay or when you're choosing a topic for one of these projects is the choice of the topic as well. So if you are somebody that has a really hard time choosing a topic and really settling on it and committing to it, having this time frame where you are choosing your topic, brainstorming it, and then committing to it, that process in itself is going to help you to limit all of the time. I do have students who have to do a project, and rather than putting it off because they are intimidated by starting it, they're putting it off because they can't pick a topic. And that is just procrastination with a different face. Instead of just saying, this is intimidating and I don't want to do it, or I'm overwhelmed and I don't want to do it, they are hiding behind their indecisiveness of not being able to choose a topic. So if you just give yourself this first 10 minutes to brainstorm topics, choose a topic, use the next 10 minutes to expand on that topic and kind of brainstorm some angles or brainstorm some supporting arguments, then that's going to really help you to commit to this topic because you've spent the time and you have to move on because you've set these timeframes, you've set these goals, and those goals are going to guide you through the steps. So just use the time you have, set a time, and move on to keep yourself propelling forward. And you're going to see that's going to be especially helpful in the research phase, where people usually also run down a rabbit hole and research for days and weeks and to no end, rather than getting the information they need, putting it together, and assessing if they need more information at that point. Continue on to the next task once the time has expired. In our case, we spent the first 10 minutes thinking of topics we would like to use, so expanding on these ideas to flesh them out will likely flow naturally. If you're struggling with the next task, if you are struggling with the next task on your list, you can do them in any order you want. This usually applies to someone a little this usually applies more to someone a little further in the process, but it can still apply here. Make sure you want to write. Maybe you want to write on a particular topic. You can jump to the research and return to step 2 once you've decided on a perspective. In our example, we'll just move straight to step 2. So basically what that means is, let's say you want to write on a topic. I had an assignment once in university, and I knew that I wanted to do my report on benthic fish. Sorry, we need to plug in. I knew that I wanted to do a report on the differences between benthic fish and cave fish. So with that in mind, I went to research before I went to dig out my arguments. So because I was not sure of the angle, I knew that I wanted to write on the differences, but you don't always know what you don't know. So I did a little bit of research about a couple of different areas of their lives, and areas that I thought that they differed, and they were different and similar. So that once I had that research, I could go back and then tackle the perspective and the supporting arguments and kind of some of the facts. And then I would go back to the research phase after that to go and actually flesh out some of the information. So you can start jumping around in the order if you do have a clear idea, but we're going to, for the sake of this podcast, or for the sake of this flow, we're just going to follow the process as outlined. Looking back on life choices, deciding on bubble tea while I was doing this live might not have been the best life choice. Love bubble tea, love being live, maybe not the best together. Okay, next, use your task list as a blueprint to guide you through the process. Once you have your topic, you'll want to start thinking of different ideas that will support that position. For this, we're going to have a brainstorming session. Start brainstorming all the ideas that can help strengthen your stance. Use the next 10 minutes assigned to complete the brainstorm and see where it takes you. Don't misunderstand. This is not the same as research. Use your memory associations to elaborate on ideas during this brain dump session. It might help you to choose a topic or perspective. Here, you find how much you know about the subject, even if you have a lot to say. Doing elaborations like this will also help you in later steps when deciding what to research. So, like I said, I knew that I wanted to write my report on the difference between cave fish and benthic fish, but I only knew on the surface the real differences, which is why or some of the differences that I had observed, which is why I thought it would be so important. It gave me an excuse to research and learn more about something that I was interested in. But I didn't know if what I saw what I thought I observed was actually differences or what it was. So I needed to go through and do a little bit more research to really see if the differences that I saw were actually differences, if the differences that I saw were caused by different things, or if they were similar from different things. So I decided to do just a little bit of research first on what I thought were the differences before going back and trying to decide the angle I was going to write my report from. Was I going to write how, because I wanted to write how they were seemingly similar conditions, the dark caves, the high pressure, the dark caves, and the only real difference was sometimes high pressure or sometimes salt water versus fresh water. Why did they look so incredibly different? Why did they have such different adaptations? And that was curious to me. So I needed to go through and I needed to see if some of these were actually real. Was the picture that I had in my mind of benthic fish and the picture that I had in my mind of cavefish, was that actually it? Or was I just picking a novel idea that didn't have any substantiating information? What if the pictures I had in my mind or the idea that I had of these two groups of fish, was that real, or is that just confirmation bias? Did I just think that they had these similarities? Did I just think that they had these differences and it wasn't really there? So I went and I did a little bit of more information or a little bit of research just to make sure that they did have these similarities and these differences that I thought they did before going back and actually choosing my angle. But if it's something that you already know something about, if you are already pretty well versed in the topic that you're picking or the topic that you've decided on, then you can go straight to the brainstorm. So I could have went straight to the brainstorm and said, I believe they both are blind, which I found out was not necessarily true. So a lot of benthic fish have giant eyes, whereas a lot of cavefish have lost their eyesight. They're both nearly translucent, which was in fact true, and just different adaptations like that. So I could have went there, but I was worried that if I made these assumptions and then continued on with my paper, then I would have to come back and scrap everything and start everything from scratch. So if you know kind of the angles that you're going from and you're pretty confident in them, go ahead and do that brainstorming session, because that brainstorming session can also really, really help with going forward and choosing what you're going to research, which is what we're going to get into next. What to do when you encounter tasks that take longer than 15 minutes. In our example, the next step will be starting to research these ideas before you begin to outline and write your paragraphs. These tasks can also be broken down further. For example, if you have 2 hours to do research, break that up into tasks. Break up your list into 4 30-minute tasks to break up your list into 4 30-minute tasks to research your topic for supporting arguments. Then add each of the 3 supporting arguments you will turn into paragraphs. So now your list will look like this. Research, 2 hours total. Research sitting number 1, 30 minutes. Find 3 facts to support my thesis. Research sitting number 2, 30 minutes. Research fact 1. Research sitting number 3, 30 minutes. Research fact 2. Research sitting number 4, 30 minutes. Research fact 3. And again, you can break this up even further into 15-minute blocks if you throw a break in between. Spend the first 30 minutes researching your topic as a whole. Spend this time looking into if the supporting arguments you came up with for your initial brainstorming session can stand. You might find better ones. Find 3 in these 30 minutes and then spend 30 minutes reaching each of the supporting arguments. After you've spent this initial time, decide if it was enough. Are you confident with the information you came up with? Do you feel like you need more? You should go back and continue your research only after you have spent this first research time as directed. Do not research blindly. Often students will spend a ton of time investigating facts that they don't need. Unstructured research time can be a wasteland for productivity. Do your first research sessions like this. Then, only if you need more information, assign additional time to a specific task. If you have a specific and directed plan, you won't waste time falling into the hole of researching for days and weeks. You can be straightforward and targeted in your searches and know what you are looking for. You may choose to spend much more time on research or much less. This will be subjective to the scope of your assignment, so follow your gut. My advice would be to set a timer and reassess after every hour at a maximum. Change the subject you are searching for after each of these markers to ensure that you're not spending all of your time on one specific fact. This will ensure that you are making progress on the whole essay and not spending all of your time digging your heels in on one argument. If you find something interesting that you want to look into further, allot a specific research block for that topic. This way, you can keep your research structured and are mindful of your task list. Try your best not to fall into the rabbit hole of chasing random facts. Everything that you research should have a purpose in your project. So that is a big, big thing. There are times where students get so excited about a project or about an assignment, and they just dive headfirst into research. They come up with all of these facts, all of this information, and they just try and cram it into the project or cram it into the report. And the problem is this: sometimes less is more. If you are intentional about the information that you put in there, you can spend more time analyzing and really dissecting and comparing the information. This shows the instructor that you are able to understand, interpret, and analyze the information you're given. You can weigh it against other information rather than just having a top 10 facts list full of facts that are not actually analyzed. They want to know what you can do with information, not that you can regurgitate it. So having too much information is just as dangerous as having too little information. So you want to find the perfect balance. So having, depending on the length of it, having 3 to 5 facts, and sometimes even less than that, for each of your arguments is a kind of a good gauge, because then you can really interpret and fill out the information. And that goes the same with too many citations. If you are just quoting and pulling quotes from textbooks and journals without ever interpreting or analyzing or synthesizing the information to flow well together, then you're just throwing all of this information at the instructor or the marker, and you're not showing that you understand and can interpret it. So don't go down this huge rabbit hole of research and pull pages and pages and pages of research, because if you cannot interpret and synthesize and use the information and explain it and analyze it and bring it all together, then it's not going to help you at all. So too much research can be just as dangerous as too little research. So it's okay to save the hardest tasks for last. I usually suggest phrasing the thesis statement for last. This is because it's generally easier to fit the thesis statement after completing the paragraphs than forcing the paragraphs to support it. Looking back on what you've proven allows you to better word your opinion. In our example of an essay, the thesis statement is the most crucial piece of the puzzle. It's okay to struggle with trying to word it perfectly. In cases like this, it's best to take the pressure off and let the words come to you. Work on other aspects of the assignment until the hard parts have a place to fit into. In the case of an essay, you must follow the research where it leads you. The phrasing of the thesis statement and phrasing the thesis statement to fit the essay is often easier than the other way around. We usually start with one idea of how we want to write our paper, but the research might tell us otherwise due to specific nuances. The thesis statement is one of the most important sentences of the essay. The thesis statement is the most important sentence of the essay. This can cause a lot of nervousness surrounding the phrasing it just right. Leaving it until last can alleviate the pressure of finding the perfect wording from the beginning. Sometimes, as you write the essay, the thesis statement will come to you organically. Leaving it till the end gives you room to allow this to happen. It's usually easier to fit the thesis statement after you've entirely fleshed out your essay. So putting in all the heavy lifting of finding the perfect thesis statement before writing the first paragraph is a lot of effort wasted. Waiting will reduce the risk of burnout and increase the chance of doing it right and well. It's also okay to have a placeholder for the thesis statement, for example. But often there's so many times where you start out an essay or start out a project and you have one clear idea in mind. But as you research, that idea will evolve and become more nuanced. And so if you leave the thesis statement, or if you leave those really hard pieces to the end, then they have a larger chance of working themselves out. This is the same with actually writing and phrasing your paragraphs. If you do it right, if you go through and you choose your topic, and then you choose your arguments, and then you research your arguments, and then you try to put them together in a logical flow, and then you analyze and synthesize them, sitting down and writing the entire body of the essay or the entire body of the report becomes so much easier because you no longer have to sit down and write an essay. Those paragraphs will organically come together as you synthesize and communicate your information and communicate your thoughts and expand on it. So in that way, sitting down and trying to write paragraphs is difficult, but it's not necessary. You can allow them to kind of flesh themselves out and organically write themselves. Oh, sorry, allergies. You can allow them to almost write themselves by just organically putting them together and then editing them into a logical flow, and then putting your thoughts in and putting your interpretation in and connecting it to past ideas. So in that way, you don't have to sit down and start writing out a paragraph, putting it together, editing it, and inserting your opinions or your thoughts or your analysis into it is going to naturally bulk it up and make it a paragraph. And then as you go through, you can just start editing it and fine tuning and tweaking it. And so in that way, just like the thesis statement, you didn't have to sit down and try and hash out a paragraph. It just happened organically. Next, start early and take your time. Continue breaking down the initial list until you have tasks that are no longer than 15 minutes. If you have a task list, if you have to list something multiple times, that's okay. We want to have a long list of items that are not intimidating. Some of them might even be 5 or 10 minutes. Just break them down. If you start your assignment early with this simple method, you can select a task every day to cross off. That way, you are not rushing yourself or encounters writing or have to encounter writer's block because you've burnt out. Now that you have this big, beautiful list, you will want to start checking tasks off. Just sit down with your list, a pen and paper, or a laptop, and start plugging away at each of these entries. Even if you start on the very first day it's assigned, or there have been times where I've checked my syllabus and I can see that there is a big project during the semester. And I'll sit down right then and I will start making out my list of how this project's going to be tackled. And you can generally do that even if you don't have the full instructions that break it down 100%. But if I can see that there is, halfway through the class, there's going to be a big presentation or a big report or a big essay on, a topic, I can start thinking about topics. I can keep a running list of topics. I can start brainstorming different ideas. And then when you get your rubric, if it's not given to you at the beginning of class, when you do finally get your rubric, you can actually start fleshing out some of those more detailed aspects of the assignment. Make sure to break up your sittings over multiple days. Decide how much time you will have to work on this project daily so that you can plan which items you can cross off. Note that once you have this list, you no longer have to work on things in order. So if you're not motivated to be a fantastic wordsmith or expert with expert levels of eloquence one day, you can work on outlines or research. Leave the writing and phrasing for another day when you're prepared to craft the perfect sentence for the perfect essay. Saving an assignment for last minute, while so tempting, is definitely not the best practice. You will write better papers if you just break them up and work on them over days. Even if you devote only 30 minutes a day to your assignment, you will see an increase in quality. And that goes even for the editing process. Let's say you do set aside a Saturday and you are super productive and you get the entire list done over that entire Saturday. You will still produce a higher quality if you hold off on handing it in and just proofread it every single day until the due date. So every day you sit down with a beverage or a snack and you just go through and you just proofread. You make little tweaks to phrasing. You make little tweaks to your analysis or your synthesis and you just proofread it every day. You would be surprised how you will still catch errors or you'll still be able to change the phrasing or level up that project days and days and sessions after the very first one. Every single time you sit down and you read one of your essay or one of your paragraphs or anything like that, you're still going to be able to tweak it just to make it a little bit better. Be honest with yourself. I know we all want to lie to ourselves and say that we work better under pressure, but it's simply not true. 99% of the best work happens in revision. The more you revise the work, the better it sounds. So just read it over and over and over and edit it. You don't have to read it from beginning to end. Pick a paragraph at random and just edit that paragraph. Continue until you have finished the entire essay or until your 30-minute sitting is over. Try using Grammarly to help you with your editing. It's entirely free to use, but there is also a premium version with even more benefits. I've been using it for years and I do not want to understate its value. I use it every day to check the spelling and grammar of everything from this article to research papers and assignments, even essays. It gives me the confidence in my writing that I need to hit publish. That's true. I use Grammarly all the time. I even use Grammarly a lot of the time when I'm editing students' papers to help me catch things that I don't catch with my naked eye. Spend more time editing your assignment than you did writing it. As you work on the project and fill up those pages, you will read it back and make tiny tweaks. A small change here and a minor adjustment there will really enhance and clarify it and make it much better. Don't wait until the last minute when you have to throw a Hail Mary. You are just writing it down. You are just writing it down at that point, like you're blurting it out. You will only have time to review it once, save it, and hand it in. You will only have 3 minutes until the deadline ticks and the marks start coming off. You know, that 2.5% that comes off daily. Does that sound familiar? Instead, rush your draft. Throw all of your ideas onto the paper however they come to mind and spend all your time editing it until it's just right. Okay, let's pop into a handful of tips for creating the best term project or assignment. Term projects don't have to be intimidating. They are an excellent opportunity to show your professor how much you've learned in class. Adding your own spin to the project with a dash of personal creativity can really set your assignment apart. I've always preferred term projects over final exams. They are a much better way to demonstrate your understanding and with less pressure. While exams often show how much a student can memorize, assignments give much more room for nuance. Try employing these simple tips next time you have a term project to make it stand out. So again, start as early as you can. Just start early. Even if you start by making your task list, make an effort to work on it for 10 or 15 minutes a day to cross off one item. Plan it out so you have time to set aside to work on this assignment each day, and you will thank me for it on the due date. The wall is only insurmountable until you start to climb it. The project is only overwhelming because you have not started. Get started, break it down into pieces, and watch how the anxiety begins to melt away. Refer to your rubric often. Read your rubric thoroughly. It will tell you exactly what's expected of you and how you are graded. Rubrics explain precisely what is required for you to get any mark you want. All you have to do is follow it. Make sure you read through your rubric word for word at least 3 times. First, when you are planning your project. Second, when you complete your draft. And third, before you hand it in. During each instance, compare your assignment to the rubric in each section. If you feel your project is falling short of the top mark, tweak it or note how you need to change it. Repeat this review process until you are happy with each of the requirements. Make a plan and stick to it. Finally, stick to this plan as much as possible. It's so tempting to trade in 30 minutes today for an hour tomorrow, but you will find all the same excuses not to work on it again tomorrow. It's going to be really easy to procrastinate, but motivation comes from seeing progress. If you stick to the plan and don't fall behind, you won't get overwhelmed. You won't get unmotivated, and you will feel even better about what you've accomplished. Most importantly, you will not dread working on it and having to catch up. Write down your plan and stick to it. You will see that you will stop getting so much anxiety and frustration about working on it as time progresses. Stress and overwhelm over every assignment will subside because you are working on them and chipping away at that to-do list every day. Seeing progress is really going to get you motivated to finish. This goes double for assignments that you don't think you understand. Even if you don't understand the assignment, create your list and start working on it. When you get to the confusing part, you will often find that it's not as bad as you thought it was. If you need clarification, you will know precisely what you are struggling with, so you can get help on that specific part. You will be less likely to throw your hands up in the air and just claim it's too hard. If you have a project you are struggling with, you can feel free to book an appointment or email me. Let's see if we can break up this assignment together. Big assignments can be scary, but these fears are often tied to our own worries about being good enough. Anxiety and doubt in all your abilities can often manifest as overwhelm and confusion. It's easy to get stuck on the big picture. Just remember, every forest is made up of thousands of trees, each one sprouted individually one at a time. focus on the step that focus on the first step and just work your way through. As you progress, the finish line will become clearer and the stress of taking each step will become less and less. Okay, so again, essays can be hard to tackle. If you are having to write an essay, be sure to head down into the description. I believe I linked the essay checklist there. If not, it's available on the website and I will throw it down into the description. Thank you for joining me today. I really do love sharing these things. And I will see you next week. And until then, I hope you have an amazing adventure.